Alright everybody, getting ready to do some Facebook Live trivia here. I am about to try to share this on the church Facebook page. Let's see here. Let me see here. Oh, wrong thing. Hey guys, share this out on your Facebook page whenever it comes up to you. I'm trying to do the same thing. Right now I'm trying to share it to the church's Facebook page. There we go. Share, and I'm going to share it to, where am I sharing it to? Share it to a page, and I'm sharing it to Graceworks Church, and I'm going to hit publish. There we go. Hey Kevin. Thanks for joining. Alright, I'm going to set the phone down now. And trivia tonight. Trivia. Usually it's Bible trivia. There will be a question about the Bible in this trivia. But this is not a Bible trivia per se tonight. Hey Chip. This is a... I'll explain a little more in a second, but as you're joining, please share. The Bible trivia tonight, there is a question about the Bible in the trivia. Now, maybe a couple of questions about that. Hey, Andrew. Specifically tonight, we're talking about the year 1970. Why? Why do you ask? Are we talking about the year 1970? Why is our trivia from the year 1970? Well, our pastor, Bill Owens, is celebrating his 50th year in church ministry, and we are celebrating that this Sunday. 50 years in church ministry for Pastor Bill Owens. We're celebrating that this Sunday. So what we're going to do is we're going to have some trivia about the year 1970, what was going on in the year 1970, just some random fact questions that maybe you guys know, maybe you don't. Some of it you're going to be guessing at. I'm in my backyard, by the way. Long story short, I had to come here to get something, and I was running out of time, so I just set up for trivia here. So please share this out to your page or on your Facebook page. It is the trivia is about the year 1970. Why? Because Bill is celebrating his 50th anniversary in church ministry. Bill Owens, our pastor, and we're going to be celebrating that this Sunday at 9 a.m. outside at our church. So invite one, invite all, and share this out there. We want as many people there as we can, but we're going to see what was going on in 1970 whenever Bill started his, career in church ministry. By the way, just in case you're wondering, I am drinking, let's see if I can get that on camera, cherry Pepsi. Actually, it's pretty good. And I'm eating homemade... Oh man, it's taking me a second. If you like pickles, I'm eating homemade pickles. And I've got just a little bit of jalapeno in them. That's why I needed a Pepsi to go with it. Homemade pickles and cherry Pepsi. Yummy. I like pickles. Anyway, trivia topic for tonight. 1970. Why? Because Bill Owens started his church ministry in 1970, 50 years ago. So, let's get started. 1970. So, we always start out with a warm-up question. What very famous pastor began his pastoral career in August of 1970? What very famous pastor began his pastoral career in August of 1970? Very famous. Infamous. Does anybody know who that pastor might be? Bill Owens? Chip Liner says Bill Owens. Like I say, this is a warm-up question, as the questions sometimes get harder as we go. Chip says BB. That's what we affectionately call Bill Owens around here, is BB, Brother Bill. If you said Bill Owens or BB or Dr. Owens, you would be correct. Bill Owens began his pastoral career in the year 1970, which is 50 years ago this month, which we are celebrating this Sunday at 9 a.m. at Graceworks Church outside, and everybody's invited. It's an in-person service, 9 a.m. outside. All right, question number 2. Question number 2. We need some more people to join here. Question number 2. Get your Google ready. Who was the President of the United States in 1970? Who was the President of the United States in 1970? And while you're getting that answer from Google or Siri or whoever you ask, just to kind of fill you in, our current president was 24 years old, and the guy that he's running against, Chip says Nixon. So Donald Trump was 24 years old. I think Joe Biden was 28 years old. And Donald Trump, that year in 1970, he produced a Broadway play. The next year, he took over at Face as Nixon. The next year, Donald Trump took over became the president of his dad's real estate business. What was Joe Biden doing that year? Well, Joe Biden was entering his first year as as a politician. Let's see here. He was elected to the Newcastle County Council in 1970. He was elected to the U.S. Senate 2 years later and became the 6th youngest senator in American history at that point. So, back to the question, who was the president in 1970? You are right. It was Nixon. Nixon was the president in 1970. Thank you. Andrew's got that right. There you go, Andrew. Right. Bringing it all the way from Virginia. So, I think you're living in Virginia now. Question number 3. What translation of the Bible came out in 1970? Bill wasn't president. He's still going for that, Donnie. Well, what translation of the Bible came out in 1970? I'll give you a multiple choice of 2 choices. In 1970, was it the NIV, the New International Version, or was it the New American Bible that came out in 1970? New American Bible in 1970, or was it the NIV? 1970, which translation of the Bible came out in 1970? Anybody? I think I'm going to try to adjust this thing real quick. I'm afraid to do this. Chip says the New English Version. Debbie says the NIV. Anybody else? Anybody else? And there could have been more that came out. Whoa! I may have tipped that just a little far. Let me back that up. There we go. Let's see how that works. There we go. I can sit up a little higher. The NIV? Well, the answer is now, this is what I found in my research. The New American Bible came out in 1970. Andrew says the NIV. From my research, Chris says I only read KJV. Yeah, baby. Hey, yes, fact check me on that, Chip, because it said the New American Bible came out in 1970, from what I read, and the New International Version came out in 1973. So Bill is officially older than the Bible, the NIV Bible, but he's older than the Bible. He's been in ministry longer than the Bible's been around, the NIV Bible. So, okay. Question number 4. Name, Chip, this one's one for you here. Name a famous Gaither song written in 1970. Name a famous Gaither song that was written in 1970. You ask, why are we doing a 1970 trivia tonight? Andrew says the Gutenberg Bible. I actually don't know. 1970, we are doing a 1970 trivia, and the reason we're doing a 1970 trivia is because we are celebrating Bill's 50th anniversary in church ministry, which started in 1970. So we're looking to see what was going on in 1970 when this guy got his start here. Andrew says joke. Okay. Anybody got a guess at one of the Gaither songs? You can just take a guess at which song. It's one of the popular Gaither songs that was written in 1970. I'm drinking cherry Pepsi tonight. And I'm eating homemade pickles. Chip says because he lives. Anybody else with a guess? Well, I'm going to tell you from my research what I found, and I know some of you, Chip says the king is coming. Could be, but I'll tell you from the research that I found, there could be several of them. That's my little house behind me. It's my little house. But the song that was written in 1970 that I researched and found was Jesus, There's Something About That Name, written by the Gaithers. Now, in 1971, Because He Lives was written, is what I saw. I didn't ever look up When He Touched Me. Because He Lives was 1971, Faye. So if you guessed There's Something About That Name, that is what I read. 1970, that's when that was written. Because He Lives was written a year later. There you go. So, number 5. This kind of stuff you're going to be able to find on your Google or your Siri if you take a look. Questions from the year 1970. What was the number 1 charted song in 1970? 1970. What was the number 1 song on the charts in 1970? I'll give you a multiple choice here. Was it Bridge Over Troubled Water, or was it American Woman? It was one of those two. In 1970, the number 1 song on the charts. Bridge Over Troubled Water or American Woman? Anybody that knows the answer, or you can guess, it doesn't matter. No harm in just taking a guess. The number 1 song on the charts in 1970 was, and the reason we're doing 1970 once again, if you're just joining us, Chip says Bridge Over Troubled Water. Debbie says Bridge Over Troubled Water. And the reason we're doing the 1970 trivia is because that's when Bill started his ministry 50 years ago, which we are celebrating this Sunday morning at 9 a.m. outside at Grace Works Church. So be there. What the world is that? And Donnie says Bridge Over Troubled Water. Faye says Bridge Over Troubled Water. And you guys are correct. The number 1 song in 1970 was Bridge Over Troubled, from my research, was Bridge Over Troubled Water. Yes, Andrew. And I think the number 3 song was American Woman that year. So, question number, where am I? Number 1, okay, question number, where are we at? 6? Okay, question number 6. What famous British band broke up in 1970? What famous British band broke up in 1970? Does anybody know the answer to that question? A famous British band that broke up in 1970, the same year, ironically, that Bill started in church ministry, which we are celebrating this Sunday at 9 a.m. outside. So make sure you join us. Chip says the Beatles. Was it Bill 50 in 1970? Donnie, you're cruising for a bruise, and Bill's going to come to your house and take you down. Chris says the Beatles. Famous band broke up in the year 1970, which was 50 years ago when Bill started his church ministry. Everybody's saying the Beatles, and I know some of you are still probably answering, and you are correct. The answer is the Beatles. All right, you sports fanatics, here we go. All you sports geeks, get ready. Who won the Super Bowl in 1970? Who won the Super Bowl in 1970, which was the year that Bill Owens started his church ministry 50 years ago, which we are celebrating this Sunday at 9 a.m. at Grace Works Church outside. So be there. Be there. 9 a.m. outside in person. We are celebrating Bill's 50th. Chip Liner says the Chiefs, the Kansas City Chiefs. Anybody else agree with Chip? Didn't the Kansas City Chiefs win this year too? Or 2000, I guess that is the 20, isn't it? Or is that the 2019 season? I don't know. Hey Chip, do you know which Super Bowl that was? Or any of you guys know which Super Bowl that was? Super Bowl number... Debbie says the Steelers. That is a very good guess, Debbie, but it's not the correct one. Anybody else have a guess? Or no? Yeah, Donnie. I know Donnie loves KC. Chris says the Red Sox. I don't. You know what? It does make you wonder if there was a Red Sox. Yes, you are right, Chip. It was Super Bowl number 4. Andrew says the Colts. Well, Chip Liner was correct on both accounts. It was, yes, Faye, it was Kansas City, and it was Super Bowl number 4 in 1970. Well, Chris, you are, yeah. Well, Chris, here's one for you. You ready for this? Who won the World Series in 1970? Who won the World Series in 1970? Who won the World Series in 1970 from a sports peeps? Once again, in 1970, there was a young man named Bill Owens who was entering church ministry for the first time 50 years ago, which we are celebrating. Chip says the Orioles. Chris says not the Red Sox. You think it was the Kansas City Chiefs, Chris? Chip says the Orioles won the World Series that year in 1970, which was 50 years ago, which this Sunday we're celebrating Bill Owens' 50th anniversary in church ministry, and we're celebrating it at Grace Works Church. Chris says probably the Mets. That's a good guess. That's a good guess. Tom says the Yankees. Anybody else with a guess? Or knows for sure who won in 1970 the World Series? Alrighty. I know some of you are still answering, but I'm going to go ahead with the answer here. The answer is the Baltimore Orioles won the World Series in 1970, which was 50 years ago. And also 50 years ago, there was a young lad named Bill Owens who was entering church ministry for the first time, and he has been doing it 50 years later, and he's at Grace Works Church now, and we are celebrating his 50th year in church ministry this Sunday morning at 9 a.m. in person. Be there. So, okay, on to the next question. Who won the NBA title? You have to know this one's coming next. Who won the National Basketball Association title in 1970? Anybody? Anybody with a guess? Who won the NBA title in 1970, which was 50 years ago? Anybody? Thank you, Chris. As you can tell, I'm trying to put a little bit of a plug in there about Bill Owens, who started into church ministry about 50 years ago this month, which we are celebrating. Chip says the New York Knicks won the NBA title in 1970 when Bill Owens started his church ministry 50 years ago. Anybody else with a guess? Right on, Chris. Got you, brother. Andrew says the Knicks. Faye says the Knicks. All right, well, the answer is your NBA champions in the year 1970 were the New York Knicks. I have more than 10 questions tonight, by the way, so that's why I'm trying to burn through them a little bit. Here is an interesting question, and you can give a lot of answers on this. I have two in mind, but there could be multiple answers to this, and I'll just tell you the two that I had. But this is name one senator. I worded this wrong. Okay, name one senator and one famous actor who were both born in the year 1970. The senator I'm looking for is an active senator. Name one senator, one U.S. senator, and one famous actor, which there are a lot of actors born in 70, but name one of them that was born in the year 1970, which, ironically enough, is the same year that Bill Owens entered into church ministry, which we are celebrating his 50th anniversary this Sunday at Grace Works Church at 9 a.m. in person, outside. We want to fill up the whole campus. So, name a U.S. senator who is still active that was born in 1970. And also name a famous actor. Bill hasn't run for politics yet. He hasn't had time. Anybody with an answer? And I'll tell you the two that I have here. There could, like I say, there obviously could be multiple who were born in 1970. And you can just keep coming with your answers. I'm going to give you about 10 more seconds to answer. Andrew, that is the one that I had, Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz was born in 1970. That is the one I was actually going to... You know what? That is exactly what I was going to say too, Chip. I think, Matt Damon. Those are the two that I was going to say. That's so funny that you guys picked those two. Ted Cruz and Matt Damon were both born in 1970 when Bill Owens was beginning his ministry, his church ministry, 50 years ago, which we're celebrating this Sunday at Grace Works Church. You may have heard that before. All right, let's see here. So Ted Cruz and Matt Damon, and I know there were multiple other actors who... Okay, here we go. These are going to be totally questions that you're going to guess on unless you have Google open right in front of you. And some of these things vary by different search engines, whatever you're looking at. But here we go. In 1970, I was looking for a loaf of bread price in 1970. Well, it told me how much a loaf of bread was by the pound. So in 1970, a pound of bread cost how much? In 1970, a pound of bread cost how much? It's true, Chris. And sometimes I found different things on Google that would give me different answers. Chris says that a pound of bread was 25 cents in 1970, and that's and you may find it different in different places, but that's the same one that I found, Chris. 25 cents for a pound of bread in 1970. Which, by the way, in 1930, a pound of bread cost 9 cents. 1 pound of bread was 9 cents in 1930, 25 cents in 1970, and in 2010, 10 years ago, it was $2.99 for a pound of bread in 2010. So, I'm here at, no way, that's awesome. I thought you Googled it, Chris. You nailed it, man, it was 25 cents. So, number 12, in 1970, what was the minimum wage? What was the minimum wage in 1970? Does anybody know what the minimum wage is in 1970? Whenever Bill Owens began his church ministry, way back in 1970, 50 years ago, when Bill Owens began his church ministry, what was minimum wage? We are celebrating Bill's 50th anniversary in church ministry this Sunday morning at Grace Works Church outside. So at 9 a.m. So be there. Andrew says $1.60. Chris says $2.50. Chip says $1.75. Faye says $1.50. Debbie says $5.75. Well, the answer is, Andrew, you are correct. Minimum wage in 1970 was $1.60 an hour. By the way, in 1930, and I'm kind of going since I gave that earlier, 1930, there was no minimum wage. And in 2010, which was 10 years ago, the minimum wage was $7.25. But when young Bill Owens began his church ministry 50 years ago in 1970, minimum wage was $1.60. Question number 13. In 1970, what was the average cost of a gallon of gas? In 1970, what was the average cost of a gallon of gasoline? Anybody with a guess on that? Or maybe you know what it was. What did a gallon of gas cost you way back in 1970? By the way, I did confirm that when Bill drove a Mustang in 1970, it had 4 wheels and not 4 legs. So the car was invented whenever Bill began his church ministry. Chip Liner says 36 cents. Chris says 75 cents. By the way, and Bill was driving an Impala back in 1970. He was not driving a Mustang or riding a Mustang. 25 cents, 75 cents a gallon of gas in 1970. We got some good guesses going on. Somebody had the right answer up there. Andrew says 36 cents. Faye says 25 cents. Well, the correct answer that I have seen is 36 cents for a gallon of gas in 1970. Now, these right here, I found different numbers depending on where I researched. But in 1970 in the United States, what was the average cost of a home? What was the average cost of a home in 1970? Once again, I found some different answers in different places, so I'm just going with one. You can take a guess if you... Andrew Smart. He was my roommate in college, so I mean, he's just a brilliant guy. And he's smart because he's probably using Google. I'd use Google. Chip says $23,000. Chris says $12,450.99. The price of a house, the average home in the United States in 1970. Anybody? Anybody else with a guess? David says $8,900. Andrew says $17,000. The correct answer is for the average price of a home, from where I searched, I think you could find it different in different places, but the average median or price or whatever was $17,000. $17,000 for a house average in the United States. And I'm sure obviously it varied from city to city and state to state, but $17,000 was the average price of a home in the United States in 1970 when young Bill Owens began his career in church ministry. And we are celebrating his 50th year at Graceworks Church this Sunday morning at 9 a.m. outside. Chris is like, see? All right, let's see here. In 1970, this is question number 15, only a couple more questions and then some bonuses. In 1970, what was the average median household income? So a house cost $17,000. What was the average median household income back in 1970? Household income. Anybody with a guess or an answer? By the way, hey guys, share this out there. Hit your share button if you get a chance, because the more of you that share this, the more people will see this. So it kind of gets the word out that people are. Chip says $9,400. Chris says I'm going with whatever Andrew says. But hit the share button, because this kind of gives a little bit of a plug for Bill's anniversary Sunday this Sunday. So share this out there. Andrew says $8,735. Anybody else? Anybody else with an answer? Chris and Andrew say $8,735. The average median household income. David says $10,000. Now this one, waiting to see what Chip and Andrew say. You know what? That's a good thing that you're doing that, Faye, because you know why? Because I found several answers on this, and both what Chip and Andrew said, I found both of those answers in different places. So it was anywhere from $8,735 up to where Chip said $9,000 plus. It was different in different places that I looked. So, but we'll go with the $8,735 was the average median household income. You can look that up. You'll find it different, like I say, in different searches. But question number 16. This is my last question before before the bonus question. And this one's interesting, because I'm going to give you today, it's closer to today's time answer, but I'm in 1970 is the answer I'm looking for right now. In 1970, what was the average age of a person on their first marriage? So first marriage, what was the average age? And I have an answer for a male and a female, which is different. So y'all can just kind of throw guesses out there. Of course, it's one of those things where it's like, 15.3 or 35.2, but you can just take a guess at what you think it is, unless you are getting any help from Google or Internet Explorer or anything else. What was the average age of a first marriage? Chip says 21. Great guess. As a matter of fact, that's a really good guess, because that kind of covers both genders a little bit. Faye says 21. Did you get married at 18, Debbie? All right. Audrey says 20. Anybody else? Anybody else with some guesses on what it might be? Andrew says 23. David says 21 for males, 18 for females. 1970. Chris says 23. Well, here is what I found, and once again, I think depending on where you look, you might find some different answers. But it says the average age for women was 20.6 years old, and for men it was 22.5 years old. So in 1970, if you were 20.7 years old, you were a really old woman getting married. And if you were a man at 23 years old getting married, you were over the hill. So because it was 20.6 for women and 22.5 for men in the year 1970. Now, I went up and looked 2016 up to see how we changed over the years. The average age for a woman getting married in 2016 is 27.4 years old. So they're waiting about 7 years later now. And for the men, it was 29.5 years old. So men are about 7 years as well. Men are still getting married a little bit older than women are. But the age difference is about the same, but they are 7 years older from in 2016. So anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting. And here's a couple of bonus questions for you, and our GraceWorks family is going to know maybe the answer to the first one, and I know there's at least one guy who is watching who's going to know this answer, and you may answer. Bonus: what couple at GraceWorks Church was married in 1970, celebrating 50 years of marriage this year? What couple at GraceWorks Church was married in 1970, celebrating 50 years of marriage? By the way, it's the same year that Bill went into church ministry 50 years ago. And we are celebrating his anniversary into church ministry this Sunday at 9 a.m. at GraceWorks Church outside, and I want you to be there in person. Does anybody know who that couple? Hey, that would have been a good guess, Chris. Bill Owens and his wife. That's not the one I'm looking for. Think about all the people who've been answering. And Chip Liner says, oh, the Gibbs and the Liners. Wow. That's right, I forgot about the Gibbs. They've already celebrated theirs. Audrey says the Liners. And you are correct, Audrey. And you are correct, Chip. It's a good thing you're correct, Chip. Yes, Chip and Judy. Chip and Judy are going to be celebrating 50 years here really soon. And yes, the Liners. And the Gibbs celebrated 50 years just about a month ago, I think. Maybe a little over a month ago. So happy 50th wedding anniversary to y'all, and happy 50th wedding anniversary to y'all, and happy 50th church ministry to Bill Owens. Andrew, Google didn't help you out on that one, did they, Andrew? But happy 50 years to Bill, who is celebrating his 50 years in church ministry, which we're celebrating this Sunday, 9 a.m. outside at GraceWorks Church. Yes, congrats. I'm along with Chris. I'm telling you, congratulations. That is awesome. 50 years of marriage, and we love you guys. So, and I'm going to give you one more bonus, and this is one that I have a feeling I don't know if anybody's going to get this one, but I will tell you. Since we're celebrating Bill, and I will close with this, make sure you hit that share button. Once again, I'd like to have this shared out so a lot of people will know that. That we're going to be celebrating Bill's 50th this Sunday at 9 a.m. at GraceWorks Church outside. But, having said that, does anybody know what the name and or location of Bill's first church that he pastored 50 years ago? Does anybody know the name and or the location of the first church that Bill served at 50 years ago? I'll give you a little bit of a hint, probably won't help you. Bill and I went back there and we did a service there. I think last year or the year before, we did a little service there. It was pretty cool to go back for their homecoming. 50 years ago, Bill Owens began his career in church ministry, and the first church he pastored was, Chip says, in Kentucky. That is a good guess, guys, because Bill, even though it wasn't Kentucky, that's a good guess because Bill started somewhere else, and then I think he went to seminary in Kentucky where he met his wife, and they, or I don't know if he was in Kentucky and then went somewhere else and then went back, but he was in Kentucky and he pastored some churches there. We'll have to figure all that out and put that together someday. Well, the answer is, and I know not many people are going to know this answer, it was Pleasant Hill Baptist Church, and it's in 1870. Yes, Faye, Pleasant Hill, you were right. Yes, and it was in Marlow, Tennessee, which is just outside of Knoxville. I went out there with Bill last year, the year before, and we did a homecoming service, and I loved it. It was so beautiful. We were out in the middle of nowhere. Somebody's calling me right now. We were out in the middle of nowhere, and it was just beautiful, just cow pastures and rolling hills, and you're just outside of Knoxville. It was a beautiful place, and it was so cool to go back to see where Bill started his church ministry 50 years ago. And so anyway, this Sunday again, it's my final plug here. We're going to be celebrating Bill's 50th anniversary in church ministry. Please share this to your Facebook page so other people will see this trivia and get my announcement over and over and over and over and over that we're celebrating this Sunday at GraceWorks Church at 9 a.m. in person outside. So thank y'all for joining, and it's so good to see Chris, one of my friends from, we go way back all the way to elementary school, and then Andrew, who was my roommate in college, and we did some pretty tough workouts together, and he always beat me. But anyway, it's good to see you guys. I'm going to have a word of prayer and we'll get going. God, I thank you that we can come here today, and what a great celebration to think of our church members who are celebrating 50 years of marriage, and Bill, who's celebrating 50 years of church ministry. We thank you for all of them. And God, I pray that it would be just a fun and great Sunday, and God, that you would be honored and glorified and lifted up as we celebrate Bill. God, we're going to be celebrating you. And so anyway, we want to have a good Sunday this Sunday, but I speak on behalf of everybody who's watching right now, and I just want to tell you that we love you. And God, we thank you for the gift of salvation that we have through Jesus Christ. I thank you for all the friendships that I have with these different people that I'm able to see here, and I pray just a blessing over them as well, God. And I promise to return the blessings to you, and I'll try to promise on behalf of everybody else to return the blessings to you. You're an awesome God. We love you again. It's in Jesus' name we pray all these things. Amen. All right, guys. Share it out there, and I will see you next Monday night at 6:30. I'll probably see you sooner than that, but take care. Bye.